class, welcome till the end of week 2, beginning of week 3. You should be finishing up your forum on the visual rhetorical analysis activity and working on your week 2 journals here in the next day or so. Before we go into week 3, I did want to make some comments about your evaluation essays that you handed in, because I noticed a lot of you are struggling with several different points. One thing I wanted to make sure is that you listen to the directions carefully and that you read them carefully, because I know some of you had good details but you failed to follow all the directions on describing criteria, or you had a good organization but didn't give enough details. And so be sure for each of these assignments to read the directions very carefully and follow along with those. Also, once you hand in your draft, all the essays we have a rubric for you on Turnitin.com, so you can't see it before you hand in your draft, but you can see it afterwards. So or within a day or so afterwards, because I have to link it to the assignment. But go into that rubric, look over it, make sure you're following all the criteria for it, because that's also a good way to make sure your paper is lining up with the instructions, is to look over that rubric. And that's very, very important to succeeding on these assignments. Some of you did great with details, and that's good, because details are going to be very important as we continue on in our future papers. So pay attention, careful attention to the instructions, details, and your overall organization. Looking forward into week 3, we're going to be finishing up our rhetorical analysis essays, and we're going to be moving on to research and looking at sources. So you have a quiz here on rhetorical analysis. Then we're going to do a writing conference on Monday and Tuesday night over your papers. So the more you have done on those papers on Monday and Tuesday, the better I can give you some feedback on your drafts and on your papers, or the more ideas you've generated by Monday and Tuesday. To go in here, you're going to go here to sign up for a conference time, and we're going to actually meet in a Google Hangout. So if you haven't used those before, here's some information on getting started on those. You need to read over that at least 30 minutes before you come to our meeting, so that you will know what to expect and have your computer and your Google account all set up to enter Google Hangouts. Once you sign up here on the day of your conference, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out an email to all those who have conferences that day, and there will be a link in that email for you to click on. I think it says video call and then has a web address next to it or something like that, and that will be where you will click in order to enter our meeting at your time. If you have any questions about that or the process, please let me know ahead of time, and I'll be more than happy to help you through that. Then on Thursday, you have your rhetorical analysis essay. The draft is due, and so you'll be turning that in, and I'll be giving you comments on those Friday, no later than Saturday, so be looking for the comments on those. Then on Thursday and Sunday, you have a source evaluation project due, and this is where you're looking to see what makes a good source as we move into a research paper. And so you'll be learning different ways to evaluate sources. Then here on Thursday and Sunday, you're also going to test your classmates and give them some sources, some library websites, and see if they can, or not library websites, some websites, and you're going to see if they can decide whether those are good or bad sources based on what you learned here in 3.4. On 3.6, we have some library search tips. Even if you've been through a library conference or been through the library before, please read over these videos. They're really important, and they're going to help you a lot as you learn to do research in our library, especially as online students who are probably going to be doing most of your research online versus physically walking into the library. Also here on 3.7, we have some academic integrity assignments. This is very, very, very important. If you plagiarize, even unintentionally, in these courses, in my course or even in future courses you take, your teachers at SNU have no choice but to at least fail that assignment and then hand in a form to SNU itself. They don't give us a choice. So you need to make sure as you're going through that you avoid plagiarism, and this activity will get you started on learning how to do that. You have to make sure that you cite word-for-word quotations, paraphrasing, summary, ideas that you borrow from other sources. All of that has to be cited, and so this assignment on 3.7 will get you started on learning how to do that. And I cannot overemphasize how very, very important it is not to plagiarize. Then on 3.8, you have your week 3 journal, and then here at 3.9, I have an extra credit assignment for you, is because I'm thinking of setting up a blog or website for my Comp 2 classes, where if you do exceptionally well on a paper, you can choose to have that published on the website and get additional feedback on your paper for it. And so in that way, it will help you learn how to write for a bigger and wider audience than just myself or your classmates. And you can even get some real world feedback on your ideas. And especially when it comes to your argument paper, this will help a lot, I think. And so if you have any ideas about how we could do that, some names for the blog or website, you can post them there. I give a few more details and ask for a few more questions there, but that will get you some extra credit to apply to some of your assignments this in week 3. So if you have any questions as you go through week 3 on your rhetorical analysis, or as we move on to research, please let me know. We'll be doing writing conferences on Monday and Tuesday, so be sure you go in and sign up for those, and those are mandatory. Bring as many ideas as you can to that writing conference. I know your draft isn't due until Thursday, but go ahead and be brainstorming about the text you're going to be using for your rhetorical analysis. Go ahead and start working with the text at least and trying to find the audience, the intended implied audience, the type of author that the text is insinuating, looking at the text itself, looking at the 3 rhetorical appeals that we went over in our meeting on Tuesday. So think about all that stuff and try to go ahead and start doing some pre-writing and drafting before you meet for your writing conference, and that will help you do a lot better on the final paper the more you have done when you conference with me on Monday or Tuesday. So you guys have a great week. I look forward to working with you in your writing conferences, and please let me know if you have any questions.